everyone, and welcome to Bourbon Bites. Welcome to a very special Thursday night stream. We are going to have some amazing guests joining us here very, very soon. Super awesome. I'm so excited to have them on. First of all, I want to say, how are y'all doing this Thursday evening? I see, I clicked the wrong button. We're good. So I know there's a few other channels going live still, so people may trickle in and out throughout the night. If you're new here, welcome. I'm glad to have you on board. This is, of course, Bourbon Bites, where we do whiskey reviews and a little bit of gaming here too. So first of all, shout out to our amazing mod team. I see Donnie, I see Swan, I see Brandon. These guys are keeping the house held down here. Also see some amazing patrons in the house. I see Whiskey Mountains. What's up, Adriana? Check out her channel. Nick Proman, Steven Sussman, and of course, I already said Donnie. And of course, Donnie. And Lil was here. Lil, for the record, Lil was here 15 minutes ago. We'll see if she makes her way back in here. But so we are doing a special interview with the owners of Tom's Foolery Distillery. But I know I haven't done a giveaway for a while. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give away 2 sets of samples for all the whiskeys we are drinking here tonight, or not all the whiskeys. There may be more than just whiskey. All of the spirits we are drinking here tonight. So as usual, every dollar that comes in that is a super chat, our amazing mod, Brandon, is going to keep track of that. So every dollar super chat we get is an entry into our giveaway. Like I said, I'm giving away 2 sample sets of all 3 of the spirits I'm drinking here tonight. So get your super chats in throughout the stream. Ask your questions. These guys are ready for all of your geeky whiskey questions, your geeky brandy questions. It's going to be a lot of fun. There's a lot of things that I'm excited to learn and I guess figure out. So without further ado, please welcome my guests, Tom and Lianne Herbruck, the owners of Tom's Foolery Distillery. Welcome, guys.
Hi, thank you.
Hello, welcome. Good to see everybody.
I'm so glad to have you guys on. So Tom's Foolery is actually, so you guys are based in Ohio, but I actually have a very, personal connection with Tom's Foolery because my first trip out to Kentucky, I met up with one of my friends who lives in Ohio, and he wanted to bring a special bottle from his home state to bring to us. So he brought I think it was a maple barrel finished bourbon you guys put out.
Okay.
And he was like, hey, here's something special. I brought this from my home state. And oh my God, I loved it. It was amazing. So I have that connection. So I was like, as soon as it hits California, I was like, I got to buy all 3 of these bottles. But apparently you guys do a lot more than just these 3. So I'm excited to learn more about what you guys do. And I guess just meet you guys. It's great to have you on, of course.
Thank you.
Well, Clifton, yeah, thanks. It's interesting. The first thing you tried was the maple bourbon. It's kind of a funny story. I'm not really a fan of flavored bourbons, or I just like the pure bourbon. But there's a local guy here who makes maple syrup aged in bourbon barrels, and he had been buying our barrels for a couple of years and asking me to put some of our bourbon in a barrel after he had emptied it out of, emptied the maple syrup out of it. Mm-hmm. I was like, all right, we'll give it a try. And I tried it, and it sat in there for about a year. And when it came out, it was really delicious. That wow. First barrel, it went to DC to Prav, where he was our first customer, and then we stuck with it because I thought it was a good product.
That's awesome. And a year, that's a long time to finish on. How would it interact? Did it interact like very quickly with the maple syrup, or do you think it took time to kind of get those flavors? The maple syrup barrels we use now are smaller barrels. So they're 8 to 10 gallon barrels. And we generally maybe would take a 5-year-old bourbon and put it in the maple barrel, sit it there for another year. And in that smaller barrel, it will definitely get more oxidation. The barrels don't have a lot of oak left in them, so it doesn't get over oaked. But the product definitely ages more. And so, it gets the maple flavor right away, but the other oxidation characteristics in the oak that takes a good season to get into the whiskey. Very cool. I see Eric Black is drinking some cask strength Tom's Foolery Applejack. Wow, I don't have that. I have the bottle in bond. That's awesome. Well, I guess let's go to get something in our glass. So you guys, I know it's late for you guys, so you guys don't have to drink. But if you want to drink with us, I'm pouring the Applejack now. I guess tell us a little bit about how you guys got started. I know this was the first thing you guys put out, and it's kind of the start of the journey for you guys. So tell us a little about Tom's Foolery.
When I was growing up, I lived on a small 1-acre hobby vineyard. But we also had a lot of apple trees. And so I made sweet cider, which would naturally ferment if you let it sit around. and we did have a little 5-gallon still. And so as a boy, I was interested in distilling, and did take some of that hard cider, put it in a still, and turned it into Applejack. And I just thought it was amazing. Of course, it was moonshining. It was illegal, which as a kid I thought was even better. But yeah, so I started making Applejack illegally as a young boy. But as I grew up and had my own kids and I had a regular day job, I found myself to be more responsible. Did not want to be moonshining. So my wife and I said, "Hey, let's get a permit," because we had a barn and we had a 50-gallon still at that point. And so we got a permit for the still we had, and we just started making apple brandy. And from there, we found out that a lot of people were interested in micro distilling. Yeah, so our original intention was just to be able to operate a little 50-gallon still and make apple brandy legally to share with our friends and be able to sell a little bit. But obviously, it's grown into something a little bit bigger than that.
Just a little bit. I mean, you're all the way in California. So. Well, that's really cool. So for people like me that I guess aren't very familiar with the phrase Applejack, I mean, I'd heard it. Like, I know it's a very historical, I think it was like a colonial spirit that they used to drink like in the early days of America. Tell us a little bit of what makes Applejack unique, and like, is it a category of apple brandy? Like, what is Applejack?
Yeah, so there's kind of the colloquial terms for things, meaning what people just call it, and then there's the legal definition. And the legal definition for bourbon, for Applejack, for apple brandy, it's all spelled out in the Code of Federal Regulations. And apple brandy and Applejack in the U.S. are the same thing. So it's two terms for the identical product, and it would be a distilled apple cider, or apple brandy. When I was growing up, we called it Calvados because that would be the term that, Calvados would be apple brandy made in France. Obviously, we could not call it we couldn't call it Calvados because we're not in France.
Right.
But we decided to go with the term Applejack instead of apple brandy because of the old historical meaning and significance of the term Applejack. It sounded more American to me. And frankly, we weren't trying to be Calvados or even so much a sweeter, lighter brandy. We were trying to be a bit more of a heavily oaked, slightly bourbon characteristic flavor in terms of the amount of oak in it. And so we went with that term. And to my knowledge, we were the first distillery to release a true Applejack using that term.
Nice.
I saw somebody reference Laird's, and obviously Laird's has been around for a long time and making Applejack for a long time. But as a funny point, the Laird's Applejack is actually a blended Applejack. So that is, I think, 70% corn and 30% apple brandy. Laird's apple brandy or bonded apple brandy is 100% apple, of course, which is the way we make ours.
Very cool. And you mentioned earlier, like, you're targeting more towards the whiskey drinkers. I got to say, I mean, I was telling you a little bit before we started the stream, I bring this bottle to so many whiskey meetups because I'm like, you guys have to try this. It's so, well, first of all, it's bottled in bond, which I didn't even know was a thing that you could do outside of whiskey. So that's really cool. But also, I mean, this is just, it's so enjoyable. It's very approachable for someone that is used to drinking 100 proof whiskey. I'm a huge fan of this one. That's why it's almost gone.
Well, great. I see you've got Eric Black, who's joined. He's
Yes.
listening, typing a few things here and there. And it's funny, the very first time I met Eric, it was at a bonded, actually it was Cask Strength. A local bar had released, had bought 3 Cask Strength, the Bourbon, Rye, and Applejack. And Eric was there with one of his friends. And they poured the Applejack, and they said, well, let's get rid of this first, because they were expecting a sweet, cinnamon flavored, apple flavored, neutral grain spirit. And so I think they thought, well, let's just get rid of this before we move on to the good stuff. And I can't speak for Eric, but I think he was pleasantly surprised, because he and his club came out, I think, within a month or so, and bought a whole barrel of Applejack. So I find that if somebody is a real fan of bourbon, of rye, of American spirits, when they try a true Applejack or apple brandy, they fall in love with it. It's an interesting thing about apple is of course, if it's fully distilled, there's no sugar left in it. So it is not going to be at all sweet. It might pick up a hint of sugar from the barrel, but, that's going to be, minuscule. But apple is a bit more of a fiery spirit than bourbon or rye. So it does always have a bit of a burn. You could take a 10-year-old apple brandy and put it next to a 10-year-old bourbon or a 10-year-old rye. And the apple brandy is just going to be hotter just because it's the way that the fruit comes through. It's got a little bit more of a bite to it. But I find that pleasant. You're drinking something when you have
me too. That's why I'm jealous of him getting castrated. Oh man, I gotta keep an eye out for that in California. So yeah, I'm just nosing it right now, and I think that's the only telltale sign that wait a minute, this isn't a whiskey, because it does nose. I mean, those apples, it's like a apple, like you said, apple cider. It's like apple, cinnamon. I mean, is that part of the process? You said you start with an apple cider. Is that like just pure apple juice, or is it like an actual like blend with the cinnamon and all of that?
So we don't use any cinnamon in it. So in our apple brandy, there's only one ingredient, and that's apples.
Right.
And so we start with, of course, apples, and we either have a local farmer press that into sweet cider. In the past, we've pressed some of our own apples into sweet cider and even used crab apples, but the volume we use now, we don't have enough apples. So we buy that from local farmers. So the process is just to let that ferment. And apple cider generally has got about 12 to 14% sugar in it. So that's going to ferment out to maybe 6 to 7% alcohol. And we do double pot distillation. So in the first distillation, it would go from that 7% alcohol hard cider to 100 proof low wine. And then we distill that a second time, and that comes through the second still at maybe 145 proof. Comes out clear. That's referred to as an eau de vie. And then we bring that down to maybe 110 to 120 proof and put that in the barrel, let it sit for 6 to 7 years typically, and bottle it up. So there's nothing goes into it other than water to dilute it down.
Very cool. All of that. I told you that these questions are going to get a little nerdy. These guys love their spirits making. We had a question from Donnie the Linux cat. He asked, I thought Applejack was made by freezing the water out of fermented apples. Can you explain the difference?
So there is a history of jacking cider, which can be made through freezing. Again, anything. So there's a colloquial term, which would be maybe a historical term or even somebody's understanding. And then there's a legal definition. The legal definition is that Applejack is apple cider that has been distilled to at least 80 proof. Now it could and we've made the freeze distilled fraction, what do they call it? FC, I can't remember the name of it, but you can take your hard cider and freeze it and pull out the ice, and it will leave behind something that's slightly increased proof. But generally, you're lucky if you can get the proof to double. So if you're at 7% alcohol and you take out the ice, maybe you're about 14% alcohol, which back in the day would have been a good thing to do to your cider because you would be making it more stable.
Right.
But you're going to have a very hard time getting up to 80 proof. I think it could be done, but it would be very hard to do.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah. I definitely see where Donnie's come from, because I played, that's what I had heard before too. So it's definitely like a right way to do it, and like a way that people have done it, just for not the legal way, but very cool. Well, you guys, we talked a little bit earlier. I was asking you guys like, hey, what's your titles? And you guys said, we do it all. So tell us a little bit about Lianne, like what your role is there. Like, what do you guys do the same thing every day? Do you guys swap it up every now and then? Just let me know how you guys, run day to day.
Well, the distillery was Tom's brainchild, as he said. As a young boy, he's been dreaming about this forever. But he does have a day job, so I do most of the grunt work around here, all the paperwork and taxes and fun stuff. I do all the bottling. I've done pretty much all the barreling that we've done. He does most of the distilling, but I help with the distilling and the mashing and all that stuff too. But lots and lots of bottling. Every bottle that anyone might have probably went through my hands. So.
That's really cool. About how many where do you guys have like a rick house on site, or do you guys store elsewhere?
Go ahead.
It's we're in 2 locations right now. We recently moved our production facility out to our farm where we grow our corn and our rye, and that's where the stills are. And I did see that Sugar Kitty asked. We do double pot distillation, so we're pot distill everything.
Mhm.
Yep, there it is. And this is so fun. I've never done one of these before.
Now, these guys are great. They have all the questions.
And so at our original location, that's where all of our barrels are right now, and where we do all of our processing and bottling.
Very cool. Very cool. So about how many barrels do you guys have aging on site right now?
350?
Yeah, 300.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Oh, it's a
We
lot.
used to have more. Yeah, we're selling it faster than we can make it.
Very well. I mean, so where do you guys distribute out to? Because I told you, like, we got these. By the way, I didn't mention it during the stream, but everyone that I'm drinking tonight is actually a single barrel select from K&L Wine and Spirits. But where do you guys distribute to? Are you guys national at this point?
We're primarily in Ohio,
Okay.
and there have been, I would say, K&L in California has been a little bit higher for us.
Mhm.
But over the course of the years, I think you can get us from Benny's in Chicago, from DuPont Circle, Prav's place in DC, Lincoln Road, right, in Mississippi.
Nice. So like all the big names in all these locations. Gotcha.
Yeah, but it's primarily an Ohio-based product.
Very cool. Got our first super chat from, which, by the way, I said we were doing a giveaway. If you guys missed it, you guys came in a bit later. I'm giving away sample sets of all 3 of these whiskeys. I'm going to give away 2 of them. Every dollar you super chat gets you an entry into the giveaway. So first super chat here tonight comes from our friend Adriana. She says, cheers to having something so unique on today. Thanks for coming on, Herbucks. Yes, thanks to you guys. I'm so excited to taste through more of these. I mean, so I guess what should we move to next? I mean, I really like the Applejack, but you just mentioned the corn and the rye that you guys grow on site. Should we move to the rye next?
You don't want to do the bourbon, kind of.
Okay, let's do it.
Because the rye is definitely the heaviest of the 3.
Okay.
And, as you're pouring that, I think we commented already, but we do pot distill everything. Mm-hmm. And there's not that much pot distilled bourbon out there. There's a little bit, but our bourbon is, it's a sour mash process. We ferment it in open fermenters, and then the double distillation technique we use is what would have been used back in the 1800s. Wow. And I think it's kind of interesting the way. So that will make it taste a little bit different. The pot distillation allows us to do cuts, so we can do heads and tails cuts, which you really can't do very easily with a column still. A small pot still will have a higher copper surface area. So from some small craft distilleries, you sometimes will get a coppery flavor in the bourbon. I feel we've figured out how to eliminate that, because generally I think a copper taste is considered a negative. But I'll tell you in a minute how we got into the bourbon making business. But Andrea or Leanne, what would you say? What's the mash bill of that, or a standard mash bill?
I thought we might have it here. Nope.
Yep. So our standard mash bill is generally 60% corn, 20% rye, and 20% barley malt.
Oh, wow. That's a lot of barley.
It is a lot of barley. Yeah. So we wanted each grain to contribute to the flavor.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm trying to think. There's not very many distilleries that I know that are doing that high of a barley amount. Is there a reason that is it grown locally? Or what's the reason for that?
The big distilleries use a small amount of barley malt because it's the most expensive grain. So
gotcha.
The reason to avoid or to reduce it to the minimum possible is it's a cost-cutting technique. And we decided to go ahead and let the barley malt be a higher percentage, because traditional bourbons, 3 grains, corn, rye, barley, and we thought let's let each grain make a contribution. And so increasing the barley content, and then also we used a brewer's malt which is a fatter, plumper grain, more flavorful grain, would allow the barley to make a contribution to the flavor. So you will get a slight malt taste to our bourbons. Gotcha.
Just reading the comments here. Zopher said, "Did I miss the Applejack?" You just missed it, but don't worry. You can always watch the replay after the stream. After the stream's over, and everyone else that's watching the replay, hi, leave a comment below if you've ever tried Applejack. Oop, I lost them. They'll be back. Oh, they're back. There we go. So yes, shout out to the replay squad. You got a tall order here. My good friend Swan says, if you ever want to be in Total Wine, you let me know.
Wow.
I mean, that's a pretty good offer right there.
All right. Awesome.
Yeah, he works at a Total Wine in Lexington, I think, Kentucky.
Okay.
But I think he's there. I don't know his title, but Swan let us know. Sounds like there might be something in the works there. Make it happen.
Good connection.
Got another super chat in from Donnie. He says, Clifton, thanks for having such wonderful guests on. Keep up the good work. Well, thank you so much, Donnie. Cheers to you. I'll cheers to you with the bourbon. So this is actually, mine is cask strength. The one that I have is, let me show it. So mine is a single barrel select. This one is actually, wow, that's over 7 years and 9 months. That's almost an 8-year-old bourbon. How long have you guys been making the bourbon? Well, you said you were going to tell me the story about your bourbon. So tell us that story.
Yeah. So we were planning to make apple brandy only. That was going to be our just the one product we made. But our still was small, and so I had reached out to a bourbon writer. You'll recognize the name, maybe Chuck Cowdery in Chicago. He'd written a book called Bourbon Straight, and Chuck and I had become friends over the years. And I said, "Hey, Chuck, do you know anybody who has a used still for sale?" And he said, "Well, Tom, I do actually. I know some guys down in Kentucky. David and Baker Beam bought some used stills a couple years ago that I think they might be willing to sell." And I was like, "Oh, well, I'd be interested in learning about that." And so he reached out to the Beams. He said, "Yeah, Tom, you should get a hold of them." And meanwhile, I did a little research on it, and these were the stills that had come out of the original Michter's distillery in their jug house. Wow. It went bankrupt and then auctioned in the early 1990s. And David Beam, and these are the Beams from the Jim Beam Distillery, David Beam and his 3 sons, Bill, John, Ed, and Troy, they were supposed to auction the still, but they liked it so much they bought both stills, all the fermenters, and all the mash tun, the tanks, the fraction tanks, moved them down to Bardstown and built a building to put them in, and they were going to start their own distillery. But life got in the way, and they never got it set up. And after almost 20 years, they were ready to sell it. So I connected with the Beams and got to know them. They liked me, and they said they would sell it to me as long as they could be involved in helping me set the stills up and make bourbon using the pre-1850s techniques for pot distilling.
Wow.
So these stills that came out of Michter's were actually the first stills made after Prohibition, first pot stills made for bourbon after Prohibition. And so, we bought them, and the Beams came up, and they taught us how to make bourbon using their techniques. And we had another visitor from a gentleman who his name was Dick Stoll, and Dick Stoll, rest in peace, was the master distiller at Michter's when it went bankrupt. So Dick Stoll, David Beam, they came up here and they said, "Tom, here's how you make bourbon." And I didn't argue with them. We just said, we're going to do it the way that.
How could you say no at that point? You got all those amazing people.
Yeah,
you got to try it.
Yeah. And it was a great experience. I mean, they were showing us how to whitewash the Cypress fermenters, and we're like, "What's whitewash?" And then David Beam said, "Well, get in the car, Tom. We're going to go down to the feed supply and buy some lime, and I'm going to show you how to whitewash fermenters." And the first time I tasted bourbon new make, I was used to tasting apple brandy new make. They call it OD. It's very easy to drink. And bourbon new make, I'm sure you've all had it. They call that White Dog. It tastes a little bit different. And the first time I tasted that, I was like, "Oh my gosh, what is that?" And Dick Stoll from the original Michter's, he's like, "Yeah, Tom, that's the way it's supposed to taste." So we just followed their formula. We put it in a barrel, came back 6-7 years later, and it was everything that we had hoped it would be.
Oh, that's such an incredible story. I mean, I think that reputation is like what I heard from you guys about you guys first, because I've heard the name Tom's Foolery before I even tried it, and they're like, "Oh, they bought the old Michter's still." So that's down. Do you guys still have this? Do you guys still use it, or was that kind of just like your starting point?
So we did sell those to the new Michter's. They've got them down in is it Lexington? Louisville.
Oh yeah, I've been there.
Yep. So it made sense for us to sell it to them. It was hard for us to tell the Michter's story because they had the trademark, they had the brand, they guarded that brand trademark very jealously and aggressively. So it was just better for us to sell that equipment to them. And we use that money to buy the farm and expand ourselves and buy even bigger equipment, because the equipment we have now is quite a bit larger.
That's awesome. I want a couple super chats coming in. Sugar Kitty says, "Great guess. I have got several Calvados, but unfortunately, I have not seen their Applejack here." Yeah, it sounds like you guys have a pretty limited market, but I'm hoping. I mean, you guys should. I mean, I feel like there's a lot of demand for it. Steven Sussman with a $20 super chat. Thank you so much, Steven. He says, "Great stuff. Love these streams. Love seeing people behind some of the smaller and up and coming distilleries." And our good friend Eric Black says, "Tell the winner that I will send out samples of picks he did with Tom's Foolery." So if you guys haven't entered the giveaway, that's an extra sample coming in from our good friend Eric Black. Small world. I had no idea that you guys had the connection with Eric. I mean, Eric's been a viewer of the show and friend of the show for a while, so it's so cool to make you guys come together.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Eric's been out a good number of times, making sure he picks some of the. He gets a pick of the barrels, and he's not shy to sample quite a few to get the ones he likes.
I don't blame him. Well, before, I know you guys have to head out sometime soon, but I want to get to the rye real quick, because that's something that so have you guys been doing rye for a long time? Is that new for you guys, or?
So we started with the rye pretty early on, so maybe even our 5th or 6th distillation would have been a rye.
Oh, okay.
And the rye that we our traditional rye mash bill is 70% raw rye, so that's just right off the field, just milled, and 30% rye malt. And so the rye is very full flavored rye whiskey. It's super aromatic, I think, relative to some other whiskeys. That's one nice thing is about the pot distillation, is it does let aromatics carry through to the final product a little bit better. So the rye, we tried to make about 50% rye and 50% bourbon. What we found is that people buy a lot more bourbon, so we have a lot more rye in the warehouse than bourbon left. But
Gotcha.
eventually it'll all be sold.
I love them both pretty equally. I started out as a bourbon guy, but there's so many unique ryes out there, especially, I mean, there's always, the Indiana rye, which I'm a fan of, but trying different ryes from different regions is always really fun to do. This one that I have, this single barrel, is from March 4, 2014. So this one's about a 6-year-old rye, this one right here. So age-wise, I know I've been talking about these single barrels. On average, like, what is the age range that you guys typically bottle at for the bourbon and the rye?
Leanne, we just released a bond of bourbon.
Yeah.
How old was that?
It's 9.5 years old. It just went to the Ohio warehouse. Yeah.
That's crazy.
What?
Yeah. So we everything we sell is at least 5 years old. So between 5 to 9 years old. And when we started, we did release our first bourbons at just a little over 2 years old. And, we did that because at the time we thought it was pretty good, and people wanted to get it out there. And frankly, we wanted to get some sales going. Sure. But now, knowing what we know, we wish we had held on to that, because a 4 or 5, 6-year-old bourbon is a lot better than a 2-year-old. There's just, there's no way to shortcut that time.
Sure. And I like that you guys notice that, because I've seen a lot of distilleries. I mean, they're putting out their stuff at 6 months old. Like, here's our bourbon. And it's like, no, don't. That's not a good representation of your distillery. So I love that you guys, kind of decided to put out older aged products. I think that's what people seek out. And especially these guys here in the chat. I'm seeing so many messages of support. Donnie says, I want a shot at those samples from Eric Black. Eric, you up the ante here with the giveaway, man. I appreciate that. And then James Taylor says, cheers to you, my friend. Yeah, let's get into this rye. I mean, you said it's the boldest of the flavors. I mean, I think on the nose, I mean, this is like, you said it's like 70% rye grain. It's very rye forward.
Yeah. Well, it would be 100% rye grain, so 70% raw rye and 30% rye malt.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah, and that's something that some people, your fans probably know it, because they're into whiskey, but a lot of people aren't aware that most grains can be malted. So you could have barley malt, or you could have rye malt. And with our rye whiskey, 100% of the enzymes would have come naturally from the grain. So we didn't add any additional enzymes to it, which made it very difficult to do the processing. Rye is a very sticky grain; it sticks to the coils. It ferments over the fermenter, right?
Yeah, it was a mess.
We've had a lot of times when our fermenter just overflows because the bubbles don't pop as well, and it'll spill right onto the floor.
Yeah. Tom Lynch says he loves the transparency on the bottles. That you guys give all the info, where it's made. You guys are the ones, distilling it. I appreciate. But that's our biggest thing that in the community, like as whiskey drinkers, we love when brands are transparent. They tell you, where it's from, the age, if they can, all that stuff. So these guys are fans of that.
Well, there's if you go to our website, it's the actual site that I would send you to from there. It broke when we switched our from to Squarespace or whatever, but
Gotcha.
We used to keep track. You can go on and look at the barrels that are left in our rack house, but nothing has been added to it for a while because the whole thing broke. But if you go to it, you can click on a barrel and you can see the fermenter it was in, you can see the still it was in, you can see the mash, you can look at the mash bill, you can look at the entry proof of the barrel, like all of the information.
Oh my gosh.
There.
Wow.
And we did that initially because when I started learning how non-transparent some of this was, I was like, wait a minute, but we actually made this. Who's going to care? How are we going to let them know? So,
we care. That's awesome.
We did find people that totally care. So, so if you go there, it's not currently up to date with new things just because the thing broke, but we left it there because people liked it, and you can kind of geek out on, what we were doing the whole time along. You can actually see the transition from our original equipment to the Michter's equipment to the new mash tun to, it goes all the way through. So it's, for people who like that stuff, it's there and it's all out there. So we just wanted to be as transparent and real as what we were doing. So
Very cool.
People that appreciate it. So thank you.
Yeah, you can find all of that is on their website at tomsfoolery.com. There's a link at the top that says barrel inventory, which I imagine is what you're talking about. Wow, there's a lot of info here. That's so cool. Yeah, these guys are going to love that. Well, if you guys have anyone in the chat, if you guys have any last minute questions, they're going to head out because, again, it's very late for them. But if you have any last minute questions, please send them in. And then once they head out, I'm going to taste through these all and give you guys my tasting notes and everything like that. And then we're going to do our giveaway winners. So let us know if you guys have any questions. Here's a question coming right in. 60 Hertz says, great looking operation. Have you finished any of your bourbons or ryes in the Applejack barrels? Interesting.
Early on, we did. We did a couple, and it added a hint of flavor, but it wasn't. It wasn't a huge contribution. Just a bit of a hint. I know your guys really appreciate transparency, and one of the things that we've done is just let our product be what it comes out as. So we use a local. Well, we grow all our own corn. We grow all our own rye. And our rack house is unheated. So the barrels in the wintertime, the temperature will get down to 20 degrees below. And we've got a shorter season in terms of our summer. It's colder here than it is in Kentucky. So I guess where I'm going with all that is the bourbon in Ohio in our rack house will age in a different climate than it does down in Kentucky. So when you taste our bourbon, it's going to be, or a rye, any of our products, it's going to be different than a Kentucky product, not only because it's pot distilled, but because it's aged in a cold warehouse with a very cold winter.
Gotcha. Do you guys use like full size barrels, or are you guys using smaller barrels?
53-gallon barrels.
Okay.
We will use some small barrels for the maple bourbon, of course, and then we'll use some small barrels to finish the apple brandy. But we don't use any new small barrels. A small barrel can, the high surface area can really over oak a product. And so it's really hard to get a balanced product out of a small barrel that's new. However, a small barrel that's used, that's had the oak come out of it, is a great barrel to age anything in because you get all the surface area for the oxidation and for the reaction and for the product to go through its changes without getting over oaked. So small barrels are a mixed thing. Somebody once wrote an article about Buffalo Trace that said, I think the title of the article was "Small Barrels Make Terrible Whiskey." And, it was, I think, I understand why somebody would write that article, but the reality is the barrel doesn't make the whiskey. The whiskey maker makes it, and because if you take whiskey and put it in a small barrel, come back 6 years later, it is going to be terrible, but it's not a barrel. You can't use a new small barrel for 6 years.
Absolutely. Well, very cool. Brandon asked, Tom's Foolery barrel pick. I was asking if I'm going to do a Tom's Foolery barrel pick. I mean, if you guys wanted enough, I mean, if the 17 people watching right now want a bottle, you guys might have to buy like 10 bottles each. We might make it happen. But well, Tom and Lianne, thank y'all so much for coming on. Like I said, we're gonna keep it going. So you guys in the chat stick around. But I'm gonna let these guys head out. Do you guys have anything cool coming out soon? Anything website you guys want to throw people to? Social media? Anything like that?
I wish we were better at that side of it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Clifton, I will say we can do partial barrels. So if you connect with your folks at K&L and say, hey, you want to do a half barrel or something like that, we could probably figure something like that out for you.
That would be awesome. Or I could connect with Eric Black. He probably knows what's up.
He does.
All
That's
right,
very cool.
Any other questions?
I didn't see any come in, but yeah, I didn't see any. But thank you guys so much. If any other questions come in, I'll make sure to reach out to you guys, get the answers, and then get back to everyone in the chat what you guys say. So thank y'all so much. Cheers to y'all, and yeah, looking forward to seeing what's next from you guys.
Yeah,
thank you so much.
Thank you for having us.
Cheers.
Cheers. All right. Well, hopefully you guys enjoyed that. That was so much fun. I love having people on from brands, especially such a small distillery, like small team. I think that's so cool. It's so much different than what we're used to when, other brands that I have come on, massive, massive distilleries. We're talking about a small team here, family owned. That's such a cool story. Hopefully you guys enjoyed that. I want to go back through. We still have some time here, so I'm going to go through and actually taste through all three of these again, give you guys my tasting notes, and give you guys a little bit more chance of entering the giveaway. If y'all missed it, I'm giving away 2 sample sets. There's going to be 2 winners tonight of all 3 of these, the rye, the Applejack, and the bourbon, all single barrel picks from K&L. So if you guys are interested in getting those, every $1 you super chat is an entry. We're going to spin the wheel of whiskey at the end of the stream. So stick around. But yeah, let's go ahead and taste through. Did you guys enjoy them as a guest? I think they were awesome. I'm so glad to have the chance to have them on. Yeah, everyone said, yeah. Zopher says, I like what I saw tonight. The Rick House is on their home property. Swan is a fan. Thanks so much for being on. Yeah, they're really awesome. And I told some of you guys on Discord, which, by the way, if you guys aren't on our Discord, bourbonbytes.com, you can follow along to all the behind the scenes, everything going on with the channel, get access to some super cool hangouts. We do patron hangouts over there, but we also have some public ones every now and then. So if you're not there yet, it is bourbonbytes.com. Let me put a little sticker. Yeah, so that's where we talked about this a little bit on the Discord earlier, but I actually posted on Facebook yesterday that I'm going live tasting through these Tom's Foolery products. So I had reached out to the brand a while back, but it was like months ago. Didn't hear back, so I was like, oh, it's okay. I'll just move on and do a stream. But then I posted on Facebook yesterday, and then I get a message on Facebook from none other than Lianne. She's like, hey, if you have any questions, let us know. Like, we're excited that you're doing the stream. I'm like, well, you guys are welcome to come on. And she's like, let me ask Tom. And within today, this literally just happened this morning, they offered to come on. So again, I appreciate them so much. I think it made it so much more interesting than just me talking about these whiskeys, but y'all are gonna get a little bit of that too right here. So Syracuse is always nerdy in the details. Yes, but I know you guys love that. I warned him. I was like, hey, these guys, their questions are going to be like really detailed, but they seem very, again, they put their freaking mash bill and everything, like all the information. You guys got to seriously check out their website. I'll give you all a quick look at what it looks like right now. Let me see if I can share the screen just so you can get an idea of what they were talking about. Because I pulled it up while she was talking, and I was like, holy crap, there really is everything there. So here's a quick look. So they have their inventory. Like I said, they haven't been updated in a couple. Their website was down for a while. But yeah, let's click on a bottle, a 6-year-old Applejack. Let's click on it, see what we see. Gives you the barrel number. Gives you a freaking photo of the barrel. Tells you barrel number 422. Shows you the still that they used. It's a beer still. Very cool. They said this barrel was filled from during an issue with a very bad and leaky barrel that needed some tending to. It literally is talking about the barrel that they transitioned this from. Wow, all this information tells you what's in it, where it's in the rack house, the barrel entry proof. You guys probably can't see all this, but man, if you are a whiskey nerd, you got to check out this. So their website links to this. Like I said, just go to tomsfoolery.com and you click barrel inventory on the side, and you get all that cool info there. Yeah, barrel strength Applejack pick. Man, I'm so jealous of Eric for getting that. Thank you, Emily, for posting the Discord server link. So we're actually doing our after party hangout for patrons, $10 and up tonight, right after this stream. So if you have been considering joining the Patreon, you want to join us over on that hangout, like I said, patreon.com/bourbonbytes. Everyone at the $10 tier and up gets access to our after party hangout in about 15 minutes here. But let's go through. I realize I don't have a dump glass, so my glasses are getting progressively more full and more blended. So maybe end of the night, I'm going to try a blend of all three of these. But so let's start with the Applejack. Like I said, I didn't really give very many tasting notes on these, but I do want to go back through and taste through them, let you guys know what I think of them. But I mean, as you can tell, I've been very much enjoying this Applejack. So, like I said, 100 proof. This is a single barrel. This is about 8 years old. Yeah, a little over 8 years old, actually. Single barrel, store pick, uncut, unfiltered. It says never mind, not uncut, unfiltered. It is uncut, unfiltered, but it is unfiltered. It has been cut. This is the 100 proof one. Sorry, I thought I was talking about the bourbon for a second. Got a little twisted there. So this is the Applejack. On the nose, I mean, it does not smell like. It smells like it could be a whiskey. Now, this is my limited experience. I said earlier, I don't have much brandy experience. I've only tried a few different brandies. So I'm approaching this from a bourbon drinker's perspective. And all I got to say is, wow, this is we get apple notes on bourbon all the time, right? We get like a green apple note on some like New Riff and things like that. Yeah, it smells like apples, but it's a lot of oak influence, a lot of, yeah, man. I almost feel like I get like a corn note, but there's no way because it's 100% apples. That's crazy. So let's go ahead and try it. Cheers, guys. And that's when the apple cider note really hits you. It's mushed apples. Does that make sense? It's like an actual like apple, almost like an apple. What's that stuff called? Applesauce. It's like an applesauce note, which is why I asked, like, hey, do you guys, when you make the apple cider that you distill this in, is it like actually blended with like cinnamon? Because there's a really, really dominant cinnamon kind of note. And then maybe that's just my brain connecting apple cider with cinnamon, maybe. But man, that if I could have fall in a glass, I've said so many bourbons and ryes are fall in a glass. This is fall. That is the rye. This is fall in a glass. I hope this bottle lasts until the fall because I'm so excited to drink this. Maybe make something cocktail wise. Maybe spike some apple cider with this. I mean, there's the possibilities are endless with this one. Man, that Eric Black says the bonded Applejack is awesome with an ice cube during the summer. Yeah, it could be a summer drink too. But man, it just the spice from that. He mentioned earlier the apples bring out a lot more spice than you're used to with like a bourbon or a rye. I gotta agree. That cinnamon spice, that holiday baking spice is really, really nice. And this one, I think this is the one that I was like, I got to buy the rest. So I bought this one first, the Applejack. I'm like, oh my God, that's so unique and so good. I got to try their bourbon and rye, which I bought. Very glad I did. Their bourbon in particular. I mean, this is almost almost an 8-year-old bourbon. So you guys, I got to try an 8-year-old bourbon. And that's what people say is the ideal age for bourbon. I don't know. But yeah, Applejack absolutely gets a recommendation for me. But let's go ahead and move on to the bourbon. Let's give a little bit of tasting notes with that one. Bourbon Noob says, now that you have some Applejack, you should make a Jack Rose. I've heard of that cocktail. I'm not sure of the ingredients, but if you guys have a recipe for Jack Rose, leave it in the comments or leave it in the chat and I'll feature it because I've heard of it, but I don't really know what it is. So elaborate, Patrick. All right, so let's move to the bourbon. This is a single barrel cask strength, uncut, unfiltered. It is at 110 proof, 7 years and 9 months. Like I said, 2 of y'all are going to win samples of these. So hopefully maybe you'll rush to replay and taste these along with me and let me know your notes. If so, if you win a sample set and you want to come back and rewatch this video and taste along with me, please do. Please leave a comment like in the chat or in the comments below that like your tasting notes that you're going along. Because I love one of my favorite things, like in all seriousness, about doing this YouTube channel is literally seeing people comment that they are drinking this whiskey along with me and they're tasting it along with me. That warms my heart. It may be a little bit of a Kentucky hug, but it warms my heart to see you guys drinking along with me. That's why I do this. That's why I started doing it, because I was watching other channels. I was drinking along with them. So appreciate you guys so much letting me know in the comments below what you think about these things, because it's not all just. I may not have the only opinion in the room. It is my channel, but make sure you guys also, if you are entering the giveaway, make sure you are subscribed because I'm checking my list. I'm cross-referencing it. So if you're not yet subscribed, just hit that red button down there. It's just a single click. You can be also while you're down there, hit the bell button. You get notified every time I go live and every time I upload a video. Does help out the channel a lot. Seriously, I see I can see how many people are subscribed and not on my analytics. I'm like, man, I wish more people you guys come back week to week, but people aren't subscribed. So if you're not yet subscribed, it's free. It's completely free, but really does help out the channel and help boost my numbers a little bit. But appreciate you guys. Got another super chat coming in. James Taylor says, I don't either. Well, once. What did I forgot what I said? I don't either. I don't know. whatever you don't either. Thank you so much for the super chat, James. James really wants those samples, especially with Eric Black throwing in some special samples there. That's really, really awesome. Tom says, does that mean I need to crack open my Tom's Foolery rye? Well, I mean, yes. Please. I'm about to move to it. I got to drink this bourbon first, but go ahead and crack open the rye. Let's drink it. We got like 12 minutes here. We can do it. Man, that bourbon. It's sweet. Now it's a very similar nose, which is what I was saying, that the Applejack, I was like, wow, I would guess that this is a whiskey. This is definitely a dusty corn note. I saw Eric left a comment earlier saying, yeah, he said something about a dusty corn note, and I totally get that on that one. Don's super chats. Wait, what did I miss from Don? Hopefully I didn't miss the super chat. Brandon's keeping track of that, so sorry, Don, if I missed your super chat. Appreciate you, man. Oh, I found it. He said I never win. And Don is also a member of the Byte Club, which means he gets access to special emojis like that 1-up symbol, which you saw in the chat. By the way, I'm getting custom emojis of my face made at this moment. So if you are a Byte Club member, you'll be able to use those very soon here in the chat. I'm really looking forward to seeing how they come out for Byte Club members only. So yeah, last time Don said I never win, he won. So I see your strategy there, James. I get it. Yeah, Pat with the Colonel, you guys, there's going to be way more custom emojis coming here soon. But man, this bourbon, fantastic on the nose. Let's give it a taste. Cheers. It's so interesting to try a bourbon that comes from a completely different climate than Kentucky. He was talking a little bit about it. They are cold up there where they are. The reason I asked about barrel size is this does remind me of some of the whiskeys I've had from smaller barrels, but I really think that's just because the climate of where they're aging this whiskey. It doesn't interact with it interacts with the oak, but I feel like it interacts more with the char of the oak versus the like the actual, sucking in, sucking out of the oak barrel, because of the heat and cold. Y'all know how bourbon's made. But I feel like with this one, with being a cold, moderate climate, it's interacting a lot with the char. So I get a really charred marshmallow note on this. Y'all know I love that note. It's for being 110 proof, surprisingly, it's very drinkable, I would say. I wouldn't have guessed that it's so high proof. I would guess it's about the same 100 proof as the rest of them. Yeah, toasty, warm. It's warm for sure. And she mentioned the mash bill. I don't have. Let me go to the barrel inventory and find the mash bill, because let's see. Let me go to their bourbon. Now this isn't 100% sure, but I'm going to click on one of their random bourbons. See what their mash bill was. I know she mentioned it. I totally forgot it. I don't know if they have the mash bill here. Well, watch the replay. Oh wait, no, actually they do. It's right at the top. So this one's 51% corn, which this one they're doing is yellow dent corn. Very interesting. 35% rye, which in this particular barrel that I'm looking on the website is winter rye, and 14% barley malt. So I think that the numbers were a bit different than she actually mentioned earlier. So this is a specific single barrel. So reference the earlier in the stream where she mentioned the actual mash bill. This is just for a single barrel I'm looking at on their website. Pat posted the recipe for the Jack Rose. He said 1.5 ounces Applejack, 3/4 ounces of lemon or lime juice, half an ounce of grenadine. Combine, shake, serve in a coupe glass. Garnish with lemon or lime. That sounds really delicious. I think I don't have grenadine. Dang it. You can substitute grenadine. I might make it. Maybe on the after party hangout, we'll do a version of that. We'll see. Thank you for that though. I love making good cocktails. So Tom just opened his 90 proof rye. So he does have the bottle body. He has a 90 proof one. Yeah, mine's a single barrel bottled in bond, barrel number 294, if you're curious. Distilled March 2014, bottled December 2020. So Eric says, my samples will be mash bills. The mash bills can slightly change with the picks. Gotcha. So let's go ahead and let's try the rye so I can drink along with Tom there. So, like I said, bottle and bond rye. These bottles are great for cork pops. I don't know if you guys have been hearing them, but they've been excellent every time. All right. So this is the rye. Now, the rye, I think, is the most... I see why he said save it for last. It's very, very dominant with the rye note. It's less sweet than a typical rye. I would say... So on the nose... it smells more like a typical rye, but when you actually drink it, it's less sweet than I expected it to be. Now, he said it is a blend of the unmalted and the malted rye. Yeah, it's spicy. Again, it's not as sweet as most ryes I've tried, which I think is really interesting. I'm wondering if that's the heavy amount of the malted rye that's in there. It's a rye. There's no way you will not know this is a rye unless you don't know what a rye tastes like. Very dominant, very strong. It does, honestly. So even though I know that this is 6 years old, wow, that's really old. I would say maybe it's just a particular grain of rye that they're using, but it to me, it drinks a little younger. I would have guessed that it's more of like a 3-year-old, but maybe, again, we're talking about Ohio, right? We're not talking about Kentucky or Indiana, not your typical rye. So it's definitely a bit different. Wow. Sorry, I'm seeing Eric's comment. The samples I will send are 3 different Applejacks, 2 different ryes, and 2 different bourbons, all cask strength. Oh my gosh, Eric, that's awesome. So, Eric, can I be a winner of my own giveaway? Because I'm like, kind of want to try those. So, like I said, you guys have about like 3 or 4 more minutes to get your entries in. Every dollar you super chat is an entry into the giveaway. Thank you so much, Brandon, for keeping track of it tonight. Hopefully in the future, I'll have a way to automatically track it. So I'm testing it out tonight. We're going to do a comparison between what Brandon was able to track and what my bot was able to track. So, man, Eric, thank you so much. Like I said, we're giving away 2 sample packs. So, well, I guess Eric, are you giving away 2 sets of that? So like 1 for each winner or just 1 set? We can figure out the details later. I'm giving away 2 sets of the rye, the bourbon, and the Applejack that I have here. So 2 winners here tonight. Potentially, you'll get something extra from Eric on top of that. Yeah. So, do you guys have any questions for me? Any like thoughts? Like, I give you my honest opinion on these. I think my favorite is for sure the Applejack. I think it's a unique spirit. I love sharing it. The bourbon is a really, really great bourbon, especially at that age. These were very affordable. I don't remember the exact price that I paid for them. I believe they were under $60 for each of them. The rye, I think it's not quite what I would typically gravitate towards for a rye. But Tom, let me know. Are you enjoying it? Are you enjoying it? Because you did say it was drinking a little hot for you. Thank you so much. Tom's entering the giveaway here. $10 super chat. Thank you so much, Tom. I appreciate that. Yeah, Tom, let me know what you think of the rye, because I like it. Don't get me wrong. I like the sweeter ryes, I would say. But I think, their Applejack and the bourbon just knock it out of the park. But the rye is just not my particular style of rye. James said, how is the bourbon? The bourbon is different. No, let me be clear. It doesn't drink like a Kentucky bourbon. It drinks more like is that a weird thing? Like it has like a craft note. It has like what I typically have associated with smaller barrels, which is obviously not the case. There's a certain note that I get on a bourbon that I can tell, like, hey, this is a Kentucky bourbon. It's got all the things I love about bourbon, but it's slightly different. And that's all depending on where it's made. So I think the bourbon is great, especially if you can get a single barrel cask strength. Definitely seek out the bourbon. But man, if you haven't tried anything from them, you got to try the Applejack. Never had Applejack before tonight, or before. Yeah, I drank this much tonight. Just kidding. Never had Applejack before trying this one, and I am not finished. I need to go on a whole apple brandy journey because I'm very excited. Pat says 1 ticket, please. Well, Pat, you are entered in. I think that wraps it up for the giveaway. If any other super chats come in last minute, I might count you. But yeah, thank you all so much for the entries. Thank you again, Brandon, for keeping track of that. Brandon is, of course, getting some entries as well for keeping up with all the amazing super chats. And again, I know I do the giveaways for fun, but seriously, the super chats really do help the channel. All of you patrons help the channel. Like you guys are awesome. You allow me to bring on amazing guests like this. Oh, I told you. I knew there would be a last minute coming in. I knew it. There's always one. Of course, it's our friend Adam. Adam says, awesome stream tonight. These definitely sound really interesting. Well, Adam, you just earned yourself an entry. We're cutting off the giveaways now. So Adam, this is the last one. Thank you everyone that did the giveaway here tonight. I'm just gonna make sure we got all the info here. All right. So let's go ahead and get the wheel of whiskey up and running. Let me get these names copied over. Wow, that's a lot. You guys are awesome. Love you guys so much. Oh my gosh. There's way more super chats than I thought. It's okay. This is going to be a really small wheel, guys. Don't worry. We'll zoom in on it for you. Let me get these. I closed my wheel of whiskey. Oh no. Let me get that list entered. Oh, wow, that's a lot of names, you guys. It's going to be weird. All right, we're going to do it. I'm going to shuffle it a couple times, which is what I always love to do. Make sure everyone's entered. Boop, 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 boop. Let me show you that. All right. Wheel of Whiskey. Let me get that shared. Sorry, give me a second. Bam. Okay. Wheel of Whiskey. I got all of your names entered here. I shuffled it a couple times to make sure it's well mixed. Donnie says, I am ready to win. Well, Donnie, tonight might be your night. So we're going to do 2 different spins. The first spin will be the first winner. Second spin will be the second winner. If your name is drawn twice, you're not going to get 2 sample sets. So if you're drawn once and it spins your name on the second time, we're going to spin again just to make it fair because we want to give away as much whiskey to as many people as possible. So, all right, you guys ready to spin the Wheel of Whiskey? Let's do it. Cheers, guys. Our first winner. Oh, man, that was close. That was real close. I don't know if you guys saw it. Steven Sussman, the amazing Steven. Steven, congratulations. I know you were really excited to get these samples. So glad to get these to you. That was really close, though, Tom. You got really close. So we're gonna spin it again. Let's see if Tom can Tom can get this time because that was right on the line, man. That was close. Oh, I can actually. Oh, this is new. They didn't have that before. Okay, actually, so we're not gonna risk spinning his name again. So let me remove Steven. Wow, that was super convenient. It worked. Very cool. All right, let's spin. Let's pick our next winner here tonight. Spin the Wheel of Whiskey. This is my blend. Let me drink my blend real quick. Don Nishida, the man who never wins here again. Congratulations, Don. That is awesome. Don, maybe I'll hand deliver those to you. Just kidding. I'm actually heading to Hawaii in September, so I'm going to meet up with Don. We're going to do a stream together maybe. We'll see. Don may have some special things to share with me. Congratulations, Steven and Don. Y'all, I talk to y'all all the time, so like I'll get your info, get the samples out. Y'all connect with Eric. Y'all both talk to Eric Black, so feel free to connect directly with Eric to get his samples. But yeah, thank y'all so much for watching. This was so much fun. Hopefully you guys learned a lot about Applejack, learned a lot about a new craft distillery. I'm very excited to see what they're putting out soon. Like I said, we are heading over to Discord for our after party hangout. That is for everyone on Patreon, $10 and up. So if you're not yet on the Patreon and want to join the after party, you can do it. You can join mid hangout. But if you're not a patron, you can still join the Discord and hang with us there throughout the week. So thank y'all so much for watching. I hope y'all enjoyed this. I'm going to be uploading 2 recorded videos here soon. I think one's going to come out next week and one's going to come out the following week. Stay tuned for those. I will be live again next Thursday. So I actually am doing my 3-year Whiskey Tube celebration. So I am having on, I lost count. I'm having on a lot of small, under 1,000 subscribers YouTube channels. They're going to come on. They're going to introduce themselves. They're going to give us a quick 60-second whiskey review. It's going to be a lot of fun. So I hope to see you guys there next Thursday. Hope we can meet some new faces and, subscribe to them and help build up their numbers because hopefully y'all have already subscribed to me, right? Y'all definitely did that. And y'all hit the bell button while you're down there, right? Just kidding. Well, not kidding, but seriously. All right. Cheers, guys. I'm heading over to the after party. I'll see you guys next week. And until then, this has been Bourbon Bites, whiskey reviews with the gaming twist. Cheers, and I'll see you guys next video. Bye.